The big lie is that God is not love, that he's not good, that he's not righteous, and that he's not holy. And it'll come at us from every angle. Satan hits us from all different kinds of ways. And we live out of what we believe. And so if you believe wrong, you're going to live wrong. If you don't believe correctly toward God, you're not going to worship God correctly. So Satan tries to come in and twist that. He wants to twist your concept of who God is. He wants to twist your concept of how he loves you and cause you to doubt it, or cause you to believe that you're not good enough or you're not strong enough or whatever. So he twists everything, but the goal is to get you to a point where you doubt the things that God has declared about himself. For example, you might have a thought, or maybe somebody says it to you. If God is love, then why did he let this happen? That's a pretty common phrase, right? And it's logical. It makes sense. Well, if God is good, then he wouldn't let bad things happen. And it sounds like it's a coherent thought, but it's a deceptive coherent thought. It's a trick. It's a trick question, right? Is what it is. Because if you really look at that, and I know a lot of people that have been caught up in that kind of thing. Even if you watch debates on YouTube between Christians and atheists and stuff like that, this kind of comment will come up all the time. Well, what about slavery? Well, what about rape? What about this? And what about all these bad things that happen? And what about all the children that die? And what about this? And what about this? And they throw out all these things in order to question God's goodness. That's the bottom line. They are calling into question whether God is really good and whether he's really love. And so they point to all these things to try to make that argument. But once you recognize that argument and the formula for it, it's easier to recognize. So next time Satan comes and he throws that question at you, you recognize, oh wait, that's a trick question, right? If God is really love, then this wouldn't have happened. So we need to recognize that arguments like that come from our adversary, our accuser, the enemy, if you will. And so I want to kind of pick that phrase apart and kind of explain it a little bit better and some of the problems with that line of thinking. The first one is the whole point of that question is to get you to doubt God's love. That's the point. That's the goal of the question, is to get you to doubt God's love. So that should be a red flag, right? Second point is it creates a false dichotomy, a false narrative. It assumes that a painful situation and a loving God cannot both exist at the same time, right? So like, well, if God's love, then everything's going to be roses and perfect and, no problems, And the fact that we have problems means that God can't be love. It's like, no, that's not how the world works. God can exist as a perfect, loving, good God, and bad things can happen. They are not mutually exclusive. But the question sets that up in our minds and tries to make us think that they are mutually exclusive and they cannot both happen at the same time. But they are. They can. A third point is that phrase is an attempt to get you to falsely interpret a bad experience to mean that God is something other than what he has already revealed himself to be. Now that's a long phrase, so let me say that again. That phrase is an attempt to get us to falsely interpret a bad experience that we're having, to falsely interpret some of our pain, to mean that God is something other than what he says he is. So if God says that he's love, then he's love. And that's true no matter what I go through. But if I go through a hard time in life and I interpret that to mean that God doesn't love me, well, then I'm coming to a wrong conclusion. I am misinterpreting that life experience. There's a guy online. His name's Dan Moeller. He puts it this way. He says, "Do not let life speak louder than truth." And I love how he sums it up. Don't let life speak louder than truth. Sometimes life is going to beat you up. Things are going to go wrong. You're going to get hurt. But that does not change the truth of who God is. God's truth is set. It's solid. It doesn't change. He is who he is, and he's not going anywhere.